Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I've just started this channel as a way to help people get started in genealogy. I am no expert, but I have been working at building family trees about 16 years now. And within the last year or so, I've also become quite familiar with DNA testing. So what I thought I'd do, because I spend a lot of time helping other people interpret their results, their DNA results, as well as give advice regarding family trees, I thought I'd start this video or a series of video to offer help out there to anyone who might need it. So the first video is going to be covering the basics of DNA testing. Then from there, I'll be offering some other videos about exactly what you can expect from your test, how your test can help you build your family tree, and then we'll go into how to actually build a family tree and give some tips on how to avoid common mistakes and how to deal with tricky situations like adoption or that sort of thing. Right, so first step, as I said, we need to cover the basics to make sure we're all starting from the same place. So this is DNA testing 101. Now, most of us know already that this stuff, but again, we don't know what information people have, so let's all just start from a level playing field. We know that most people have 23 pairs of chromosomes for a total of 46 chromosomes. And you see in the graphic here, these first 22 chromosomes are called autosomes. These chromosomes contain information about hair color, eye color, shape of your nose, shape of your ears, that sort of thing. And then our 23rd chromosomes are called the sex chromosomes. And we know that males are X and Y, and females are X and X. Each of these pairs of chromosomes, so let's look at chromosome 1 here. You get one from your mom, and you get one from your dad. So that's represented by the pink and blue here. All right, and so that happens for all 22 of the chromosomes. One from mom, one from dad. Same thing goes for your sex chromosomes. You get one from mom and one from dad. And you'll notice here, mom has XX. That means she can only pass on an X because that's all she has. Dad has an XY. And it's completely random what gets passed on, but dad can pass on an X, his X, meaning that makes you a girl because you're an XX now. Or dad can pass on his Y, and that would make you a boy because Y and X is a boy. So basic thing here, but that's how it works. 50% of our DNA comes from our mom, and 50% comes from our dad. Now our parents and our parents' parents inherited their DNA, their chromosomes, the same way. They got 50% from their mom and 50% from their dad. Okay, so that means that within our own DNA is a mixture of our grandparents' DNA too, and our great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents, because we've all inherited the DNA from our ancestors. So that's all swirling in within us. So that's being depicted here in this photo. Okay, so what we have here, this line up here are our grandparents. So this would be, and these are our parents, right? And then this bottom line here is the children. So let's say this is us in the middle, these two. We get one chromosome from our mom, one chromosome from our dad. So that's why you have a pair right here. Okay? Dad is almost always depicted on the left, by the way, when you're looking at these pictures here. So dad is over here. These are his pair of chromosomes. And then these are his parents. So that's his dad and that's his mom. And here's mom. And that's her dad and her mom. As you can see, they're all different colors here. Okay? And when they have children, so mom and dad here have your mom. See how the colors are mixed now. So basically, this is called recombining. The DNA bits mix and then pass on to your child. So mom is a mixture of both her parents here. So the DNA mixed, and now mom is a mixture of all of this. Same thing with dad. Here's his dad. So he's got a mixture because the DNA recombined. Same thing here with mom. He's got a mixture, DNA recombined. When they have children, they're now getting a mixture of all this. Okay, so you've got a mixture of all your parents and your grandparents and their grandparents. That's further up here, but obviously we're not going to get all bogged down and all that. We're just keeping things simple. So you notice how colorful the kids are now, because we're mixing all this DNA together. So that's what is inside you. You will also notice here that all three children represented aren't exactly the same. That's because unless you're an identical twin, your DNA and your siblings' DNA is slightly different. You're all pulling from the same pool. You have the same parents and you have the same grandparents, but you don't inherit DNA in the exact same way. Just think of it as a bowl of alphabet soup. Your parents are a bowl of alphabet soup, and they have letters A through Z in the soup floating around. And you're an empty bowl. And to make you, they ladle out a bit of soup and put it in your bowl. And your sister also gets a ladle of soup in her bowl, and your brother gets another ladle of soup. What's the likelihood all three of you are going to get the exact same letters in your soup? It's not likely, is it? You're going to get a mixture of letters, but you're still all from the same pot of soup. So as silly as that sounds, that's the best way to describe what's happening. So you will not match your siblings exactly unless you are identical twins. And since you don't match exactly, your DNA results are going to vary slightly. There are 3 genealogical tests available on the market. And, well, I should rephrase that. There are 3 main tests for genealogical purposes. There are tests that are done by the police and FBI and crime investigations, that sort of thing, and paternity tests that might be court ordered, that sort of thing. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the things that are available commercially on the internet or in shops that you can take to help trace your family tree. Okay, and the first test, and it's probably, it's one of the ones that has been around the longest, and it's also the one I think most people are familiar with. And it's the Y DNA test. And because, as we already discussed, only males have the Y sex chromosome. So this test is for males only. And the test will follow your father's line all the way back tens of thousands of years. And it's also referred to as the surname test. And this is because our fathers carry the surname down through the generations, and that's basically the same line that this Y DNA is following. And also, when you take this test, you get a haplogroup assigned, and if you take a specific Y DNA test, you get a deep haplogroup, meaning it's pretty specific. There are other tests you can take that can give you a broad haplogroup, but this specific Y DNA test is the one that would offer a more specific haplogroup. We'll get into that in a bit. Okay, so this is basically just reiterating what I said from before, that this slide from earlier, how the first 22 chromosomes are called autosomes, and the Y DNA test that we were just discussing is referring to the 23rd chromosome, the sex chromosome, the one with the Y DNA. So that's the one that particular test is focusing on. So this is what I was talking about regarding the haplogroup that you would be assigned with your Y DNA test. So man began in Africa, and over the centuries, about 60,000 years ago, man started to migrate from Africa and started to populate the rest of the world. And so haplogroups basically follow this migration. So depending on where your ancestors migrated to, that is what haplogroup you are assigned. So if your ancestors stayed in Africa, you'll be haplogroup A, B. There's a CR there that looks like part of Africa as well. And then E's go over to West Africa, and then Northern Africa are some J's. And then you had all these people who migrated. Like this looks like an Aboriginal route here. So into southern India, and then down along the coast, Indonesia, and ending up in Australia. So these will be native Australians, Aborigines. And then we have movement here into Asia. Here's the branch that went off through Siberia and then crossed that land bridge and then populated North and South America. So these would be the Native Americans, who are closely related to Asians as far as DNA goes. And then we've got this branch that went off into Europe, and those are your lines there. So that's what a haplogroup is. It's just assigning you a group of where your ancestors originated. The second test has also been around for a very long time, and it's called the mitochondrial DNA, or mtDNA test. This has been passed down from a mother to both her sons and her daughters. So mom has this DNA, passes it to her children, but only females can pass on this DNA. So although men have it and men can test their haplogroup with it, they're not passing that on to their daughters only, or their children in general. Only mom is passing this DNA on. So males and females can take this test, but this is following your mother's line, again, back tens of thousands of years. And again, this will assign a haplogroup to show that migration. So African, this haplogroup is much older than the Y haplogroup. So this is tracing back about 120,000 years. Now, the thing about mitochondrial DNA, it is not among the autosomes or the sex chromosomes that we talked about earlier. A lot of people think mitochondrial DNA is testing the X chromosome, but it's not. Mitochondrial DNA exists outside the cell, so away from these chromosomes. It's nothing to do with these. It's outside the cell, and that's where the mitochondrial DNA is, and that is what they're testing. The X is something else, and we will get into that another time because it doesn't really pertain to what we're talking about here. It's a little more advanced than the basics. The third test, and this is the most popular test, is autosomal DNA. So here's that picture again. We're getting a lot of use out of this. So these are the 22 pairs of chromosomes that I mentioned earlier. So we are not discussing the sex chromosomes where the Y test is from. We are discussing the the first 22 chromosomes that are called autosomes. These are the DNA that we inherited from both parents. Remember, the pink is what we got from mom and the blue is what we got from dad. And they've given us 22 pairs. As I said before, these chromosomes are containing all the information that makes us us. Our eye color, our hair color, our skin tone, all of that is contained within these 22 autosomes. And since this is passed down from parent to child, we contain all of that information from several generations of our grandparents, because they passed it on to their children, who then passed it on to their children, who then passed it on to their children, who then passed it on to you. So all of that is located within these 22 chromosomes. That means that unlike the sex chromosome, a male or a female can test, because it makes no difference. They're not testing the sex chromosome. They're testing the autosome chromosomes that were passed on from both parents. So you're getting information from both your mother's side of the family and your father's side of the family, and all their mother's side of the family and their father's side. You know, it makes absolutely no difference what sex the person is. This is what is confusing a lot of people, I think, about the autosomal tests that are on the market now. So, makes no difference if you're male or female. Tests both sides of your family. Your results will contain info from all sides. This test is relatively new to the market. It has only been in existence, I think, about 10 years, maybe 12 at the most. And I think a lot of people didn't realize that this new test was out, so that's why there's a lot of confusion about whether or not you should have a male test, or, you know, that there's confusion. But because this test has come into the market, it has completely revolutionized DNA testing for the masses. You no longer need to test your father or your brother or whatever, unless you need to. We already talked about that, but anybody can get results from this test, and you can trace both sides of your family. So the three most trusted companies offering autosomal DNA tests, and these are the ones that you're seeing advertised now. Those are autosomal DNA tests. So those companies, I said three. I was reading the slide that said 3 genealogical tests available. There are more than 3 companies. So there's Ancestry DNA. This happens to be my favorite and my preferred company. And I should say I am not sponsored by them. I don't make any money from them at all. I pay for everything myself, but they are who I prefer. I have used them about 16 years to build my family tree. So they were the natural choice when it came to DNA testing, because it kind of meshes in your DNA test and your family tree all together, and it's just easier for me. The next company is 23andMe. I have also tested with 23andMe. But the difference there is that 23andMe focuses on your DNA, but it also health. That's their thing. They don't really do the genealogy thing, like build a family tree, or, you know, have the ability to search records to build your family tree. That's not what they do. But they are still a very trusted company and are still, I would highly recommend them. The third company is Family Tree DNA, Family Finder. Now, when we were talking before about the Y DNA test and the mitochondrial DNA test, those are offered by Family Tree DNA. The Y test, where you can do the matching, the surname matching, like you can actually find people who match your Y chromosome to find out what surname you match, that is only available through Family Tree DNA. 23andMe will give you a haplogroup, or a male or a female haplogroup, but it's only a basic one. They don't do the deep testing that family tree DNA do. And they don't, 23andMe does not match you to other Y matches. They're only giving you a basic haplogroup, okay? So just make sure you understand that distinction. Family tree DNA also offers just an autosomal test, which again is testing both sides of your family. That test they call Family Finder. Okay, they are also a highly respected company. I'm just realizing I forgot another company. I'll mention it after this. There's MyHeritage. MyHeritage is relatively new to the scene, but they are trusted. And the other company that I forgot to mention is called Living DNA. Living DNA is a British-based company. So if you are British or you have, or you're descended from the British, they are a good company to test with because they have, basically they partnered up with the, I can't think of the name of the study, but there was basically a study where they went around the UK and tested all the people who have lived in a village for a long time. They have that data in their database, so they're great for pinpointing your DNA to a specific area in the UK. But they test, I mean, you can test with them no matter where you're from. But I'm just saying that if you know for a fact you're descended from the British and you would like to know what area your people came from, that's a good company to test with because they have quite a bit of information there. So they're called Living DNA. Okay, and well, that's it for the basics. I hope that made sense. I hope you have a bit more understanding about the basic tests that are available out there. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer them. And stay tuned for the next series, the next video in my series, which is going to be Should You DNA Test? And there we're going to go over what exactly DNA testing is, what are the benefits. I will address any concerns that people have. Some people are concerned about privacy or their DNA being used against them in some sort of way, and I'll address all that in the next video. And then after that, we'll go into how you apply DNA results to figuring out your family tree. Okay, hope that was helpful for you guys. See you later.